Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, with a review of writer/director/whitest kids you know, Zach Cregger's newest film, Weapons, starring Julia Garner and Josh Brolin, telling the story of 17 kids who get out of their beds one evening and T-pose out into the night, never to be seen again.
Those kids walked out of those homes. No one pulled them out. No one forced them.
Weapons, like Cregger's previous film Barbarian, is difficult to review spoiler-free, but I'll keep any major spoilers behind a warning later in the vid. I will say this up front. Weapons is not as much of a surprise film as Barbarian was. With Barbarian's trailers, it intentionally wasn't really clear what the movie was even about.
I booked it on Airbnb like a month ago.
I booked it on HomeAway.
You're fucking kidding.
Barbarian's trailers made it seem like it was just about a woman set up in an Airbnb with a creepy stranger who played Pennywise. You had to see the movie to find out what it was really about. With Barbarian, I really enjoyed not knowing what I was getting into with a horror film, and thought it had a clever approach to how its very creepy and weird story unfolded. But not knowing what you were getting with Barbarian made it so some people saw it and didn't end up liking the movie it turned out to be.
Mongoose is gone.
I enjoyed Barbarian, but it definitely was not going to be every horror fan's cup of tea with how out there it gets. With the trailers for Weapons, it's much more transparent about its premise, even if it seems like it's trying to hide something from you. It's about a town rocked by a tragic and eerie mystery and how the characters respond to that. There are twists and turns, of course, but Weapons doesn't pull anything out of left field, which might disappoint some fans of Barbarian hoping for shocking surprises. Weapons is just much more of a conventional mystery with some weird, crazy shit mixed in.
A lot of people die in a lot of really weird ways in this story, but you're not going to find it in the news.
Weapons opens with an unseen child narrator explaining events that preceded the story, and if you've seen the trailer for this film, the opening is basically that, and it's a bit hokey, especially since the child narrating isn't a character in the film, and they claim the movie is a true story, and come on.
This is a true story that happened right here in my town.
The narrator explains that at 2 a.m. one morning, 17 kids left their beds and disappeared into the darkness, and we watched them T-pose running to a George Harrison song. It's a bit of a goofy way to open the flick. The opening feels like watching an extended trailer for the film, but it really is just the movie getting its setup out of the way as quickly and efficiently as possible to focus on the aftermath of these kids disappearing. It doesn't concern itself with getting to know any of the missing kids too much. It's more about exploring how people are affected by this type of grief and how they respond to it or choose not to respond to it.
Mrs. Gandy's room was totally empty.
The kids T-posing while running is a bit of an odd choice, but it does give the movie a weird, standout visual without giving away what you're gonna see, and it does make sense why Zach Cregger had to have these kids do a weird thing while running to make it clear to the characters that there's some larger, sinister connection between the missing kids that's causing them to all run like a bunch of spazzes. Nobody would choose to run like this.
What do you see that I don't?
Beyond their weird style of movement, what adds to the strangeness of these 17 children disappearing is that they were all in the same class together, and their teacher, Justine Gandy, played by Julia Garner, is surprised to find that all but one of her students didn't come to school that day, and Justine later receives the brunt of blame for the disappearances.
We're talking about 17 kids in one classroom.
It's reminiscent of Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners, where a parent looks for the most convenient explanation of their child's disappearance. Though in Weapons, the disgruntled parents don't get to the point where they're building a Paul Dano torture device, so it's not as extreme a critique of the court of public opinion.
Why are you making me do this?
The abuse that Justine faces from the parents is only ever cruel harassment, vandalizing her car, sending threatening messages, but it's still terrifying seeing this woman suddenly living in a town that hates her, with no proof. And Julia Garner delivers a very vulnerable, nuanced performance as Justine.
I'm the problem. Got it.
You know what? I think that's the first honest thing I've heard you say. You are the problem.
My first exposure to her was in that shitty Wolfman movie earlier this year, and her playing a monotone, computer-generated silver chick is also not the best showcase of her talent. But I liked her in Weapons. The Justine character isn't some totally perfect, innocent person. She's sympathetic, but she has a drinking problem that's exacerbated by the town's accusations. She oversteps her boundaries as a teacher, and she sleeps with an ex who's married, which is on him a lot more than her, but still, Justine has flaws, and they make her relatable, and that's really the secret weapon of this movie. It features a sprawling cast of flawed but endearing characters that gradually emerge over the course of the film. Julia's initial story is just the way into the film's overarching narrative, establishing all 6 of the film's protagonists.
We have a lot of emotional parents here. I think it's best if you keep some distance from this place.
Weapons is over 2 hours long, longer than your typical horror movie, but it being so heavy on character drama made the runtime earn to me, especially since, like I said, the film has 6 protagonists with their own plot threads. How does the film balance the stories of its 6 main characters? Well, Weapons has a non-linear structure. Non-linear. Linear. I gotta start learning how to pronounce words correctly, but basically Weapons has a chapter structure. Each chapter follows one of the 6 main characters, exploring the story from their unique perspectives, with each of the stories overlapping in interesting ways or having new information revealed in another character's side of the tale. It's like Pulp Fiction structure, but focused on a single overarching story instead of Pulp Fiction's more episodic approach.
You looking at something, friend?
Ain't my friend Pluko.
Weapons is a bit like Sonic Adventure, actually. That game had 6 characters with overlapping stories, but instead of trying to find Chaos Emeralds like in Sonic Adventure, Weapons is about finding some lost kids or whatever.
Whoa! A Chaos Emerald!
Weapons' original ensemble cast was completely different, but due to delays involved with the writer's strike, the film had to be almost entirely recast. Notably, Pedro Pascal played the Archer Graff character, ultimately played by Josh Brolin. And I'm fine with Pascal's absence. He's a good actor, but just really overexposed lately, which is better than a bad actor like The Rock getting overexposed, of course, but I really felt like Brolin was well suited to play Archer Graff. A father of one of the missing kids, Brolin is an intimidating force as Graff, whose confrontative macho exterior hides the broken man underneath, who regrets never being able to tell his son how much he was loved because of fragile masculinity.
In that classroom. Why just her classroom? Why only her?
Alden Ehrenreich, the second best live-action Han Solo, plays Paul, a cop and Justine's ex. Paul is probably the least sympathetic of the characters. He cheats on his overbearing wife and desperately tries to cover up a crime he commits in front of his dash cam. Paul initially comes off as just some spineless schmo, but he uses the women in his life and is casually cruel. Austin Abrams is a standout in the film playing James, a local crackhead that acts as a foil to Paul the cop. They kind of have a fucked up Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd thing going on between them. It's just the cartoony gags in this movie involve hypodermic needles.
Wabbit twacks.
Nah, you got it all wrong. I just went to the blood bank yesterday.
James is probably one of the most realistic depictions of a crackhead I've ever seen in a movie. He's first established asking Justine for bus fare twice in front of a convenience store, and James spends most of his chapter either smoking crack or stealing shit to pawn off and buy more crack. And James is only really relevant to the plot because he's trying to find the missing kids for the reward money, assumedly using the reward money to buy more crack. It's a tragic and humorous depiction of the desperation of drug addiction, but I shouldn't be surprised how accurate this depiction of drug addiction is coming from a PCP addict.
Do you do a lot of PCP? Got a gallon. I guess you do. Yeah.
Benedict Wong as Marcus, the school's principal and Justine's boss, is a bit of a thankless role in the film. He does get the most memorable and scary sequence in the whole movie, but he doesn't really get a lot to work with as a character. He's just a nice, accommodating guy who tries to navigate the school through the tragic disappearance of the students, but we don't get to know him or his husband all that much. Big John and Little John get more screen time.
Get out of my yard, you pervert!
Weapons has an effective and intriguing mystery told through an interesting plot structure with some great character drama, but as a horror movie, it doesn't go quite as far as I would have liked it to go. It's a long, slow film, so it doesn't crank the horror up until close to the end. Weapons does have some great, tense build-up and an eerie atmosphere.
What?
But it does also have to rely on a lot of fake-outs that are often just dreams, showing spooky kids that feel like non-spoilery horror cliche imagery that can be shown in a trailer. A lot of the crazy shit of the movie is reserved for the final half of the film, and the crazy scary shit that's there is pretty damn good. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like the movie goes far enough with its horror. It feels a little too restrained outside of a couple particularly gory sequences, and the horror doesn't feel like it's able to reach its full potential. There just isn't a robust supply of genuine scares throughout the film, but still, Weapons is suspenseful and very creepy. Alright, we're moving on to spoilers for Weapons, so if you don't want to get spoiled, skip to this time code for my final thoughts. There's a sixth character of Weapons that I skipped over, and that's Alex, the only child from Justine's classroom that didn't disappear. And that's because, and this shouldn't be too surprising, Alex was involved in the disappearance of the kids. It becomes pretty clear early in Justine's own investigation that something weird is going on at Alex's house. Alex's parents creepily just stare out into space in the dark like a couple of spooky David Putties. So the mystery quickly becomes less about where the missing kids are, and more about why the missing kids are there to begin with, and what the hell is going on?
What do you see that I don't?
And yeah, this is where we get to a convenient and simple explanation of the movie's horror. A witch did it. Specifically Alex's Aunt Gladys, a creepy cancer-ridden woman with turf bangs. Kinda looks like Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka if he was a redhead. Gladys moves in with Alex's family under the guise of needing help through her cancer treatment, and she uses black magic to put Alex's parents under a spell, forcing Alex to do his Aunt Gladys's bidding if he wants to keep his parents safe. And that involves putting Alex's classmates under his aunt's dark influence.
Show me. Where did you go?
Basically, Gladys uses voodoo to control Alex's classmates, and it's implied that Gladys is draining the life force of those under her control to keep herself alive. It's pretty goofy and an easy way to explain the crazy shit that happens in this film. It felt a bit like Longlegs in how it just explains everything away with evil Satan magic by a weird-looking person.
Cuckoo. Cuckoo.
And with the title Weapons, I kinda expected that the mind-controlled kids would be turned into human weapons. But the missing kids don't really do anything until the very end when Gladys's black magic is used against her, and the hypnotized kids humorously go sick house on Gladys's ass as her comeuppance. I would have really liked to see the mind-controlled kids attacking other people before this, to see the mind-controlled characters, well, weaponized more. I don't really know why this movie is called Weapons, honestly. It didn't seem like the main purpose of the mind-controlled characters to be used as weapons. I do like that the movie ends on a bittersweet note where, even though the missing kids were rescued in the end, their experiences leave them in a catatonia, but they seem to slowly emerge from it. It's a chilling ending that isn't totally grim, but there are tragic consequences. Also, the Paul character gets stabbed with a hypodermic needle, and we don't find out if he ends up contracting AIDS or some other disease, and he scummily fucked Justine without telling her this. So even though Justine survives this movie, we don't find out whether or not she's spared from some horrible illness. I like a movie that has some ambiguous dark element that's left hanging when all is said and done.
Are you watching?
Weapons is a great movie, but just a pretty good horror film. It holds itself back and doesn't feel like it fully explores the horror of its concept and easily explains it away. Still, the mystery of the film is intriguing, and its non-linear plot structure allows for its 6 interlinked characters to really shine amid the film's dark, tense atmosphere. I give Weapons a kid's T-posing while running out of a gallon of PCP.
Wow! A gallon! Yes. Yeah.
Before I go, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, me. Pledge to my Patreon today to support the channel, help it continue to grow, and you'll also get access to weekly movie nights every Sunday, and archive commentaries if you miss the movie nights live. Just $5 a month to get a movie night every week. Here are the movies I'll be streaming next Sunday. Pledge to patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula if you're interested in my bonus streams, and I thank you in advance. This video is made possible through the pledges of my Patreon supporters, and I'd like to give a very special thanks to the kind folks pledged to my shoutouts tier. All of their support on Patreon means a lot to me, and it helps my dark influence continue to grow. If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more videos. Be sure to also keep in touch by following me on social media at Dr. Wolfula. While I still have your attention, consider pledging to my Patreon to support the channel and get bonus content like private movie night streams with me and credits in my videos. Consider pledging at patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula. Also, check out official Dr. Wolfula merch on tpublic.com/user/Dr. Wolfula. Thanks for watching. Dr. Wolfula signing out.